Welcome to the Rocket Roof Show, where we equip fellow roofers to do more commercial business every first and third Thursday of the month. It's time to launch your business to the next level.
This is Project Command. Stand by your power transfer.
3, 2, 1, blast off!
Thanks so much for tuning into another episode. This is number 17. We've done 16 of them. And so we're just going to take the opportunity to dive deeper into Andy's story. He's on as the guest, not the host this time. So Andy, tell us a little bit about your story.
Thanks, Jonathan. So several people might have already heard, where I got started and what brought me to this point. But so my name's Andy Neer. I own Empire Contractors. And I've been doing this for about 22 years. And just a quick story about myself. I was raised on a farm. When I graduated from high school, I decided to go to work for a cousin that had a construction company. And then over the next couple of years, I worked for 3 or 4 years. I worked for 3 really reputable contractors in the area. And I think that's one thing that kind of sets me apart with a lot of roofing contractors is that I learned how to build houses from the ground up, knowing, trim, siding, roofing, cabinets, flooring, all kinds of different things. And so I got a really good background before I started my business in 1998. And then not only the skills to be able to do them different trades, but also all 3 of those guys were very ethical, very honest guys, hardworking guys. And so I lend a lot of the way I do things to how them guys handled themselves. And so 1998, I started my own company. I was 23 years old, didn't have a clue what I was doing. And I did like a lot of roofing contractors do when they got started. I was an owner operator. I wore my tool belt right next to my crew for many years. And until I learned to take the tool belt off and get into the office. It wasn't for 12 years I learned how to do that. And so 2010, I decided to transition to the office, and it was about that time too that I started dabbling in commercial. It might have been 2008, but 08, 2010, I started doing small commercial projects like libraries, gas stations, just little buildings, and never really knew how to get into the bigger stuff. And as fortune would have it, I ended up going to a local city council meeting for a particular issue in our town, and another guy showed up that was the manager of a local food processor facility. And in the middle of the meeting, they went into closed session. So me and that facility manager of the food processor stepped out back, and we had to wait 10 minutes, and we just started chatting and got to know each other. And he found out I was a roofing contractor and said, hey, we got some leaky buildings, and since we were both local, he decided to give this a shot. And we did quite a bit of work for them. We still do work for them guys to this day. And I remember that first project thinking, it's the biggest job I've ever done by far, but I don't know how to get more of them, right? Like, I don't know how to get in front of these building owners. This one just happened to be local, but how do I get in front of other building owners or building managers that are out of town? How do I get exposure to me? I didn't have any idea how to do that, but I knew I wanted it. And so that was the beginning of a journey on how to pursue those guys. And it wasn't until a few years later that I got certified with a different manufacturer and started working with a network of contractors. And really that was born and started transitioning into doing more and more commercial. But really, when we started this podcast last year, it went back to 2015 when I realized it was all because I was tapping into a network. I was tapping into a network of contractors that had already been there. They had different methods of marketing, different methods of branding themselves. And I just started using some of them tactics that those guys have used and applying them to myself. And slowly but surely, I started getting leads, and I started getting known as a contractor that could work in commercial buildings. And that's kind of where it's led to me today.
Awesome. Awesome. So you're obviously quite busy with your crews and everything you got going on, and you're on social media all the time. So how do you find time to do this, and why is it so important to you? Why did you want to add this to your life?
Well, because I was at that point one time when, I was a small contractor, and that actually goes back to 2001 when I was my little company, and I wasn't really well known. I was only in business for a couple of years, and there was this one contractor that was in our area, and he was like the pristine contractor, the premier contractor, and it was that guy, like, if I could just work for him, I know that I've made it. And one day he called me to work on his project. He was getting rid of his other roofer, decided to try us out, and I worked for him for a long time. But after the first year, I decided to gather up enough gumption to ask him. I said, "Hey, Rick, I was just a kid. I was just a young guy. Why would you trust me to put a roof on, these $1 million homes?" And he says, "Well, somebody decided to give me a shot when I was a young guy too." And so it was with that heart of, like, not just sharing knowledge, but sharing opportunity and sharing exposure and networking, that I realized, you can go it alone for so long or for so far, but it's really hard to know what you don't know, and where to find when you don't know if you're doing something. So just because that guy had high standards and he took a chance on me, it really helped me to realize that, I could just continue going up the steps of the ladder, and to success. And I think a lot of roofers are stuck with, hey, just got to do the next roof, and they don't look at actually improving themselves from year to year, and moving up to, different levels, not just a bigger roof, but higher caliber projects, maybe different positions in your company, maybe specializing in a niche trade or a certain thing that you are good at. And so, yeah, I mean, I've gotten to the point now where, and I never thought I would have been this here 15 years ago, where I like to share with other guys what's worked for me, what hasn't worked for me, what I've had success with, what I've failed at. And, I wish I would have had that 20 years ago when I started, but I didn't. If I were to ask somebody, I would have had to ask my competition, hey, how do you do this? Well, you ain't going to ask your competition. And so it's great to have, I like social media. So it's great to have social media now where you can connect with thousands of other people, and they don't have to be your competition. They can be across the country, and, you can get information really quickly. And so really it's just about passing it on, right? Somebody helped me at one time and took the time to train me and work with me. And I enjoy giving it back. And I'm really passionate about that. Really just starting what I really like to call it is starting the conversation. I don't have all the answers. Heck no, I don't have 30, 40 years experience like some veterans that I know, but I do like starting the conversation. Why would you use a pitch pocket here? Why TPO versus PVC? Why are coatings good? Why are coatings bad? I like starting all these conversations, not to prove that my theory or that my point is correct, but just to hear other people's perspective and point of view, and just hearing that conversation really, I think, brings good dialogue to the industry and betters our industry.
We want to take a quick minute to thank our sponsor, Top Roof Contractors. If you're looking for more commercial roofing projects or a network of vetted contractors to collaborate with, you need to take a closer look. Visit toproofcontractors.com to learn what it takes to join.
For sure. Yeah, and I'm sure you've learned a lot too along the way. I know anytime that I'm, in more of a leader or teacher position, you end up learning way more and a lot faster. So what are some of the things that you've learned with the many guests that we've had on the show, or just the process of doing the show?
Yep. So when I started the show, the very first thing that I wanted to do was bring in experts in the industry that were good at their particular thing. And I know a lot of podcasts, they talk about lead generation and, maybe storm damage and stuff like that, but I don't do a lot of storm damage. So that's really not the premise of the show. But what I've learned from the different experts that I've had on here so far is that commercial roofing isn't as intimidating as what I thought it was 10 years ago. 10 or 12 years ago, I wasn't even really interested in commercial roofing. I thought that was something that only the big leaguer guys did, like here I'm playing small town high school baseball, and that's big leagues. And I'd have no business being in the big leagues. But once I started doing a few jobs, and I actually have I'd probably say 4 or 5 solid men that are my coaches, my mentors, and I lean on them for, when I need advice or I need direction. And, once you start really, I started talking to these guys and finding out how to do different things, I realized it's not nearly as scary and intimidating as I thought it was beforehand. And so, which leads me to my next point is I really think this industry is moving towards more smaller companies, ethical and smart guys that are good with business, but they don't have to be 30 employees. They don't have to be a $10 million company. They can be a $1 to $2 million company with a handful of guys, maybe a 4 or 5 man crew, and they can go out and take care of these smaller to mid-sized commercial buildings all day long, all year long, and make a sizable income doing it.
No doubt. And that's definitely a shift that many are starting to see.
Yep.
Even on social media, you see so many more people talking about commercial because we have so many more commercial roofers out there. So the market's really fragmenting, which is kind of different from pretty much any other industry where you got one big fish getting bigger and bigger, soaking up everybody else. But
yep.
What other shifts do you see taking place in the near term, maybe long term? You definitely have your finger on the pulse.
Yep. So coatings are really taking the industry by storm. I know there's a lot of diehards out there that are, they don't do coatings because they still look at them as a Band-Aid or a maintenance item. And that's to be, how do I want to say it? They have earned a reputation over the last 15, 20 years of being that, because there's a lot of poor applicators, for one, and there's quite a few manufacturers, I'm not going to name any, but there are quite a few manufacturers that they're putting coatings out. They're either putting them on big box store shelves, or they're just pushing them out with no adequate training. Here's the bucket, slap it on. And, that's if you're not going to train the applicator, that's going to lead to some, bad applications. And basically with coatings, you're putting part of the manufacturing process into the hands of contractors, taking it out of the facility, the manufacturing facility, and putting it in the hand of contractors. And it can be done. It's proven to be done. But many times, if contractors aren't watching their quality control, then they'll let that quality slip, and hence coatings have got a bad name over the years. But it's just another system, right? It's warranted, and it's a lot of times you can get good warranties. But that's one thing that I see as a game changer going in the future. The other thing that I see as a game changer is what I just mentioned a few minutes ago, the networking. It used to be 10, 15 years ago, everybody stayed separate. It's like, oh, I don't share my information because that guy's my competitor. I'm not going to share my information because they're going to take my, my secret sauce and use it for their own. And I think more and more people are starting to realize that, there is a certain secret sauce or proprietary information you don't give away, but there's a lot of things like installation and, branding and stuff like that, or maybe hiring practices with employees or leadership that we can share with each other. And what it does, it betters the industry. I mean, the roofing contractors, residential and commercial, are kind of known as a roughneck savage crowd. For every 9 savages, there's 1 professional. And so I think just by putting good content out there, networking with people, showing how to be professional and smart in your bidding practices and taking care of your customer, ultimately just benefits the customer. It benefits the end user by making the industry more professional.
Awesome. So just a few questions before we close this out. Number 1, what's your favorite sport?
I am not. Well, are you talking like an organized sport like football, baseball? Because
Something that you'd watch as a spectator, because I've got a
I
next question after
see.
this
I
one.
don't really watch sports as a spectator,
Okay.
but I like to play them. So I play indoor soccer in the wintertime. But I also do ice climbing. That's probably my favorite sport. Is I go up and climb frozen waterfalls in Canada and Upper Peninsula, Michigan, and so that's what I like to do.
Awesome. That was my second question. What do you like to do for recreation? So the big one is, what's your favorite emoticon?
Emoticon, probably the sideways laughy guy.
Okay.
Kind of a generic one. In
No, I like that one too. Well, great.
fact,
Thanks so
I
much
think I, in
for, yeah,
fact, I
yeah,
think
that
I have
one.
them. Yep.
Yeah, that's fantastic. All
So,
right. Well, thanks for doing the show. I mean, everybody knows how genuine you are and really wanting to help the industry and more importantly, know each other. And it shows.
and I'd like to do a little plug here. If somebody's watching this show and they they really feel like I should interview a particular person, they might be hard to get, they might be hard to reach, but I don't know all the people that are out there in this industry. There's thousands of people in the commercial industry. There's also thousands of CEOs, owners of companies that have decades of experience, and they're known in their own little markets. And my fear is that all this knowledge and expertise is going to die with them. It's going to pass away with them, or when their company passes on, or gets sold, or whatever. And I think that some of these older guys, or veterans in the industry, would love to have them on this show to talk about a particular thing. I know not a lot of people like to be on the camera, but I just want to pick some of these guys' brains, and I think it would be advantageous for our audience to hear some of the the roof systems that were put on in the 80s and 90s, and not only that, but how it transitioned. Believe it or not, there was a day and age in the 60s or 70s when TPOs weren't invented yet. And there was times in the 60s when EPDMs weren't invented yet. I'm not exact on the time frames right there, but every decade or so, a new product comes along. And when that happens, you got all of the people that have been doing this other system that are against change. They're against this new product. And I get it. Sometimes the other one's obsolete because there's chemicals that aren't good for us, or there's systems that come out that are quicker, or there's some that come out that are safer or faster to put on. Some systems, now they have white systems that are coming out. They didn't have them years ago. And so I get it. The industry is ever evolving. And you got early adopters, and you got people that they want to do the same system that they've been doing until they retire. But I would love to talk to some of these veterans in the industry, these titans in the industry. So if you know somebody, maybe you want to put them in contact with me, I would love to interview them. And I like to interview people's strong suits. So I'm not going to put anybody in the hot seat and, debate them on anything like that. Really just like to pick people's brain and start conversations. So recommend away. I would love to chat with some experts.
Awesome. And what's the best way to get a hold of you?
You can call my number, 231-578-4760, or they can message us on the Next Level Roofer Facebook page, which is Next Level Roofer by Andy Neer. And I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook, so you can find me on quite a few different platforms, Instagram also. So, yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thanks again, Andy. Glad you could come on as a guest.
Yep, and thanks for taking the time to flip the camera around on me. And I'd like to share why I started this podcast. I'm not always able to, constantly. I run a roofing company too, so sometimes it's hard to get our schedules in the right spot. I don't even have my booth done yet. We want to make a new booth for the podcast, and I just haven't had it done yet because we're busy running a roofing company. So, but stay tuned. That'll be coming down the line shortly. And if you really do want to hear more episodes of the show, I encourage you to follow it, like it, share it. Would love to. We're going to start handing out some prizes, not prizes, but like giveaways when we reach a certain amount of followers. So I'm looking forward to that, because who doesn't love giving stuff away? So
for sure.
So, okay. Well, thank you for taking the time to do this with me.
Not a problem, Andy. Anytime.
You've been listening to the Rocket Roof Show podcast. Be sure to subscribe through your favorite podcasting platforms such as iTunes or Google Play to get the latest episodes as they are launched. For more, please follow us on social media or visit our website at rocketroofshow.com. We look forward to joining you here again soon at the next launch.